February 4th. It's 1:03 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Director Davidson,
Here.
and Director Retterman.
Here. Public comment at this time. Members of the public may address the committee on any non-agendized items. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for consideration. No action we take on these matters that aren't listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. We do have a couple people online. Any public comment today?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Francisco.
Hi, good afternoon. Basically, my public comment has to do with asking for an agenda item at a future board meeting or this committee meeting that lines up or delineates or inventories the various regulations that the district is required to be reporting out on as a result of the January 1, 2025 deadline. It's kind of hard to figure out unless you're a deep diver into the regulatory environment. And I thought it would be helpful to have just an inventory of those things that the district needs to report out on to meet the regulations that are in place.
Okay, we'll give that some consideration. Thank you. Any other public comment? Francisco, lower your hand so we'll know when you're ready to go next time, please. Item number 3 on the agenda, approval of the minutes.
Move for acceptance.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 4, new business, federal legislative update. Mia is not going to make it today, so Michael, you're up.
So why don't we do state first? Because we have a guest online that
Okay.
is calling in for that one. And so Kelly, is that okay, Kelly and Kylie? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce Kylie Wright. She's the Aqua State Relations Advocate. She gave a wonderful update in our last Headwaters. So after that, I invited her to come give an update to you all. Kylie, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm trying to get my camera up. Okay, you should be able to all hear and see me. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kylie Wright. I'm one of the policy advocates at Aqua, and I will be leading on wildfire and headwaters issues this year for Aqua. I'm first going to provide an update on Aqua's advocacy efforts on the catastrophic wildfires that occurred in Southern California earlier in January. With these wildfires, there was a large focus on the media, on water service, and a lot of misinformation. So early on, Aqua sent a joint letter with the California State Association of Counties, CSAC, to legislators whose districts were directly affected by the wildfires or had districts that were nearby the affected areas. And this letter offered our organizations as a point of contact and a resource. And this was to help with legislators who are maybe receiving questions from their constituents or maybe have questions themselves and might be thinking of policy. So Aqua definitely wanted to be a helpful resource there. We also reached out to key state policy committees with that same message, offering Aqua as a resource. And we have met with policy staff from the Senate Natural Resources and Water Committee and the Assembly Utilities and Energy Committee to just have initial conversations regarding the wildfires. And then in addition, Aqua staff, we've been working across all of our departments, and we've developed a dedicated webpage with resources to assist members impacted by the wildfires. And this page includes examples of communication tools used by member agencies, copies of the governor's executive orders, and helpful links. If anyone's interested, the webpage is aqua.com/wildfire-resources. Our team also developed a fact sheet on the roles and responsibilities of water agencies during wildfires. This fact sheet includes examples of long-term planning and also actions taken during emergency response. And this fact sheet is located on the webpage. You can also email me at kyliew@aqua.com if you'd like to receive a copy, and we'll be using these fact sheets during our advocacy efforts. I also have a budget update as it relates to wildfire and forest resilience. The administration released its proposed state budget for 2025-26 on January 10th, and this included a total proposed spending package of $322.2 billion. And the proposal allocates some of the voter approved climate fund funding, so Proposition 4. And of this bond funding, a total of $1.5 billion was allocated for wildfire and forest resilience funding. And the governor's proposed budget proposes $325 million to be allocated as part of the 25-26 budget year. And then in addition to these investments, the budget proposes $39.3 million for various wildfire and forest resilience projects and programs, including defensible space, home hardening, reforestation, and wood utilization. And the budget further proposes a tax exemption for wildfire settlement funding from the 2025 tax year through 2029. And then separate from the budget, the legislature also convened a special session that was expanded to address the Southern California wildfires. And they passed a special session package of $2.5 billion to expedite initial firestorm response and recovery efforts, and also included funding for housing developments in schools. And this package was signed by the governor on January 23rd. And then during that special session, there were several policy bills that were introduced as well related to wildfire by Republican legislators. And these bills did not move forward. And the House and Senate passed a measure yesterday to adjourn the special session. So Aqua will be monitoring to see if these bills are introduced in the regular session. And then lastly, Aqua anticipates many bills will be introduced this year on wildfires. And we plan to track them as they come in and engage on them as appropriate. And I'm happy to take any questions.
The information you mentioned about the responsibility of the water district, can we make sure we get a copy of that or get a link to that? I'd be interested. Does that talk about
happy to.
liability issues, or is it just best management practices, or what does it entail?
Yeah, we decided not to touch on the liability aspect, but it kind of outlines a lot of the media was focused on pressurization of systems. So we discussed how fire hydrants aren't designed to combat large wildfires, how they're more for structural fires. So we kind of explained that, and then we go into some actions that agencies take to help aid in fire suppression. So that's the long-term planning, and then the short-term fire response.
So Kylie, sorry, you're
Yeah,
kind
to
of,
make sure
the
you all
audio
get
is cutting
a
out
copy.
a little bit there, but I think it's similar to the op-ed that Director Radaman just released, where it's discusses the limitations of domestic water systems compared to the scale of the firefighting effort for wildfire.
Well, typically they move too fast. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't,
correct.
Right.
you can't keep up with it, with hoses.
Right.
You know.
They're not designed to fight that kind of fire.
I mean, Michael, you and I have talked about strict liability, and I don't know how that's going to play out. But Kylie, do you have any? I know you said the Aqua isn't taking up the liability side of it, but do you have any comments on strict liability of a water district in those times?
Yeah, I know there was one lawsuit that's already been introduced, but I don't have specifics on that. We do have our legal affairs committee that we can pull in. I know they've touched on this issue, I think several years ago, our legal affairs committee worked on that issue. So we're happy to pull them in as needed.
It came up in the most recent state ledge committee meeting too. I think Aqua members are aware that issue has kind of come back to the surface. It was discussed a few years ago. It's a very difficult issue to address legislatively. And so it's kind of been on the I was going to say back burner, but that doesn't seem like the appropriate pun. But anyways, I think it's back on the forefront now. So finding a way to resolve that issue, I think is on the front of people's minds again.
When I brought that up to to our attorney, our in-house counsel at Aqua JPIA as well, and he's not anticipating any lawsuits in that or to be or that the members of Aqua JPIA to be receiving any. He hasn't heard of any yet.
Good. Yeah.
But
Kylie, do you have any, you mentioned the budget. The audio is kind of cutting out a little bit, so I wasn't sure. Did you mention Prop 4 funding? Or do you have any updates on that front?
Yeah, not specifically on the rollout of Prop 4. I think we're still waiting on how all that funding is going to be distributed. But just as part of my update, the only thing was that there's 325 million allocated from the bonds funding for forest and fire resiliency.
yeah, I think that was your second item that you mentioned, but your voice was garbled a little bit at so some of the things were coming out. But
And I think there's another, if I remember correctly, 600 million for water infrastructure. So, but I think still remains to be seen how that's going to be doled out.
All right. Well, thank you.
any other questions, Riley? Thank you very much. Oh, we do have, before you leave, we do have some public comment. The members of our public are also online and someone has their hand raised. Francisco?
Oh, yeah, that would be me. Kylie, would it be possible to have those links included in the minutes of this meeting, hot links, so that we can all have access to the documents you referred to, specifically the responsibilities and some of the things you mentioned?
Kylie,
Yeah, happy to send that your way.
Thank you.
and Kelly
Include those.
will,
Yeah.
Francisco, or go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, we'll get those out to people.
Okay.
Thank you.
And don't worry about the link. Kelly will do that here. But appreciate you sending them over.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kylie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kylie.
Oh, just in time.
Okay,
So Kelly, did you want to talk about the other?
more state ledge stuff?
Yeah, I put together a few that we're keeping an eye on in the packet. I can go through each one individually or just kind of skim over them if you like, but
No, let's go over them. There's some good
some of
stuff.
these were brought up in the Mountain County Sledge the other day. SB 88, I think is really interesting. You know, that one overall strengthens wildfire prevention while making better use of biomass for carbon reduction, energy production, and biochar development. So again, just go ahead and read through that. I think that was really interesting and that can really play a role in our West Point facility up there potentially. So
Yeah, and on that one, just I'll add real quick. That's Biomass Association of California, Julia Levin. You might remember her from the event we held in Murphy's a while back. She's fantastic. We're members of the BAC, and so I think considering a support position on that legislation, it doesn't do as much as I would like it to do, but it is supportive of biomass utilization, which I think in general this committee and the board has been in favor of.
What's
Go ahead.
BAC?
Biomass Association of California.
There's a new one.
What's the status of the West Point facility?
So they actually, the very good news that we received last month was USDA finally issued approval of the $25 million loan guarantee, which was holding up the whole thing without some of the onerous conditions that were in the previous approval. It did still include an interest reserve condition and the developers seeking some additional contingency funding. So once they've secured that, so one small piece of funding left to get, it's small in relation to the scope of the project, they're off and running. They should be hopefully starting construction soon.
And it's Phoenix Energy? Who is it? What's the?
Phoenix Energy is that's the parent company. BMEC, Blue Mountain Electric Company, is the subsidiary that is.
So I've been getting some inquiries about investing in Phoenix Energy. online. I was just wondering if it was the same.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what you have.
Yeah, but it talks about oil. It doesn't talk about.
Oh, no, that's not this. That must be a different Phoenix.
Right, if it pops up again, I'll try to forward it over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be curious to see.
Just curious if they were, I mean, they're out seeking some financing, so.
Hmm.
I don't have enough for them.
And then that SB 72, that's just basically talking about the California Water Plan and just retweaking that a little bit, and expanding the advisory committee to include tribes, labor groups, and environmental justice organizations. Basically just making the water plan a little more inclusive and sustainable for the future. SB 223, it's very similar to last year's SB 945, where it's really the health impacts of these wildfire and the smoke. And so, I mean, I think anytime we're going to be talking about wildfire, whether it's health impacts or whatnot, anything can help mitigate it. So it's a good thing. So that one's being reintroduced by Alvarado Gill. Again, it was very similar to last year's SB 945, almost the same bill.
Did she introduce that last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that it died last year. So, and then I kind of wanted to talk. I'm not sure if Mike was going to talk about our CSDA meeting last week with. It was our assembly member, David Tangi Pa. That's how you pronounce it. I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce it, and I wrote my little note here. It's Tangi Pa. And so his predecessor was Jim Pattison. So he's the assembly member for the eighth district as a Fresno State Bulldog. He worked as a field representative for the Fresno County Supervisor, Nathan Magsick. And he is believed to be the first Tongan American to be elected public office in the United States. Some of the topics we talked about that day was, he was very much into local control and forest management, emphasizing the importance of mountain and rural counties for all of California. We talked about just fuels reduction projects. He did recently tour some Groveland CAL FIRE projects and some of their FireWise communities. Several of these little subdivisions are becoming FireWise, and which supposedly, hopefully helps with insurance, some of the fire insurance issues. That was another big topic. He is trying to more just communicate with us and discuss some of these fire insurance issues. Unfunded vegetation management. He highlighted the over 200 million dead trees in the high Sierras that need to be removed. He also introduced AB 66, which focuses on increasing vegetation management on all state easements. He wants to like a 5 to 15 foot fire break basically on all state easements. So that's AB 66.
You said he spoke where at CSDA?
Yeah.
What function did they have recently?
No, it wasn't a function. So it was Dane Wadley, Dane,
Yeah.
Our district representative, in collaboration with the CSDA district that's just south of us, gathered districts from throughout Assemblymember Tangipa's district to participate in the little meet and greet. So it was a small group meeting. I think there were 10 districts that participated, including us. Fresno Irrigation District was I think the only other water district. And then there was a cemetery district, a veterans district, a couple of other smaller districts. It was great. It was, I think it's one of the things CSDA is really helpful in facilitating. Gave us an opportunity to introduce ourselves and a quick overview of CCWD. And he was really engaging, really sharp. He already has an understanding of a lot of the issues that are high priority issues for us. A lot of the stuff Kelly already mentioned, but also the insurance crisis. And he was before he started working for that supervisor, I think he was in real estate before that. So he has a really good understanding of those issues. And in a way, he talks about these issues in a way that's kind of refreshing to hear from a legislator. He clearly, has taken a dive and really understands these issues. Seemed very responsive. I'm really looking forward to working with him more.
It'd be nice to get him fully briefed on the West Point project, because I think that'd be really something that maybe he could keep, starting out new, having a project like that he can watch and then, hopefully, continue to support for us. But I think that's the kind of thing that would
Yeah,
be
any-
helpful.
Any education that there's so many young assemblymen, assemblywomen. I mean, 38, I think, coming in this year. We
And there
had
was a
heard
lot
number-
last year too.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Or 2 years ago, I guess it was. So yeah, I'm really optimistic. I think we're going to try to get him up here as soon as we can because we're the very northern edge of his bound district. The boundary is the Moak. So Amador County has a different assembly member. And he's based out of the Fresno area. So we really want to get him up here. I don't even know if he's ever been to Calaveras County. So, but we did have an opportunity to bring up the biomass project. He was really interested in that. And then he immediately flipped to hydropower without us even, prompting him
Wow.
and said, talked about how it's kind of an injustice that large hydro doesn't get renewable energy credits and some of the same issues that we've been frustrated with for a long time. He brought that up on his own.
His predecessor came up to one of our Mountain County events in Columbia.
Right.
Jim, had an interesting evening with.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
Got removed from the meeting. Did you remove me from the meeting?
Yeah, and just in general, cost of living too. And like Michael was saying, Amador County is the next district up. They're trying to set us up a satellite office maybe in Tuolumne or something like that because
Okay.
he has a huge district. I mean,
Right.
it's huge.
Geographically,
It
right.
was really refreshing. Really, I listened to an interview with him this morning, just really emphasis on mountain counties. And that was really nice to hear. And then this morning, I just found this, it's AB 241, where it's also something that he's working on. And it's to establish a wildfire and vegetation management voluntary tax contribution fund, allowing individuals to designate a portion of their state tax refund for conservation districts and wildfire and vegetation management efforts. This tax fund is set to expire in 2032. So I just found that about an hour ago and thought it was something interesting as well.
Good work.
But yeah, like Michael said, I think we got a really good feeling with him. I look forward to getting him up here and
And good to see you on the Mountain County Ledge Call. Are you on that committee? Do you
No.
want to be?
I would love to be. Not official. I do have a meeting this afternoon with Justin and Joel about some of the outreach material that was
Okay.
discussed in that meeting. So after this meeting, we're going to talk about some of those.
So I know at least you're on the distribution list, but
Yeah.
if you can get on that committee, I don't think we have a CCWD person on there, but it's good to see you on the calls and I hope-
Aren't you on it?
I'm on it. No, I'm not. I'm not on the Ledge Committee.
Oh.
No, as president.
I don't know that I even know what their process is for appointing people to that committee.
And I'm not sure, but I'm betting you could,
Let's ask Justin.
you could ask and see what we need to do to get on it, but I'm,
Yeah, like I said, I have a meeting with him at 3 this afternoon, so I can talk to him about it then. But
awesome.
looking forward to that. That was a great meeting. And again, I'm looking forward to the legislative days again in.
No,
May.
we're really gonna, yeah, and I'm gonna be at that also. I got it on my calendar already.
Yeah.
But we're really focusing about Mountain Counties with this bond and these, there's a lot of stuff gonna be introduced this year. And we do have a huge opportunity to influence. I mean, the numbers are staggering with how many brand new legislators there are in Sacramento. You're right, 2 years ago, the number I could not believe how many new ones came in. There's more this year
Yeah.
that are coming in here. I mean, you could say they're just raw, they're green. They haven't been in Sacramento before. And they're bringing, and it is, and I'm gonna imagine that what we found out is they're eager to be educated with what's going on and the water. And I think water in California, they're listening as well. And that, yeah, the parading around on that Ledge Day, that was amazing. I mean, we were trying to go into Southern California and Bay Area legislators' offices, trying to get them to figure out that, where their water comes from.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, and I think we learned a lot from that last year, and I think it's
Mhm.
just an opportunity to really build on that, this next one. And, again, I think some of the stuff that we leave behind, some of the literature, some of the mapping and all that, and those stats, I think will be really, really important.
Awesome. I think we're up against, our Mountain Counties Ledge Day is the same days as CSDA's.
Yeah, the CSDA is a 2-day.
Right.
And it.
But
does conflict with one of
we're
our-
just having a reception the night before. Pretty sure it's just like it's an opportunity to to go to a reception, stay over and be there at 8 a.m. in the morning. I think is what CSTA is doing. If I read their agenda properly.
So is Mountain County is going to move to a different
No, I
day?
don't think so. And again, I think we only have room capacity for like 20 people. So it's not and theirs is much bigger.
Much bigger, yeah.
And I think that when I saw that, I looked up, I think Aqua's has one, but it's not even in the same month. I don't think it's in March.
It's in March, yeah.
Is it in March?
It usually is in March. I'm assuming so. I was wondering, I had today.
Well, with all the we should go to as many of them as we can.
March 26th.
Oh, it is. Yeah, we have that's. Well, ours is gonna be, I think, okay, yeah, I think ours is in May, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that it was in a different month. Yeah, we should try and head down to that one as well, because we have a meeting that day. March 26th, I have our second CCWD meeting.
Yeah, I don't know why it conflicts this year, because I know in years past we've gone, I think they moved it back a week or something like that. That was going to be part of my GM report today, so I'll just address it now. But yeah,
To try and get there?
to try and have, we'll have staff presence there. We can see how it plays with the board meeting, but
Okay. You have the
it's
ability to move.
it's usually, very informative discussion, and then, they try to carve out time to meet with your elected representatives. We can do that independent of that event. So it's not crucial necessarily to do it that day.
Right.
But it's usually, by then, the legislative session will be in full swing. And so we'll be able to get a lot of information on what the most critical items are. And I suspect this year will be a lot on wildfire.
Yeah, I think the session ends on March 20th,
What session?
the legislative session in California.
Well, it might be the deadline to introduce new bills,
Okay,
but
that's
the
what
session
it
will
is.
extend through the
our
end of.
Mountain County's ledge meeting, state ledge matters, is gonna be meeting at 9 a.m. on Friday morning, the 21st
21st of,
March.
okay, yeah, February 21st is the last day to introduce new bills.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. The legislative session will go all the way through the end of the summer.
21st?
February.
Huh, okay.
Any questions?
All right. No, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you any questions?
No.
Any questions online? Yep. We do have, Francisco, go ahead. Are you muted? Have you muted yourself?
Sorry about that. For Rebecca, I can't change the appearance of the meeting structure on Teams, and you guys are appearing in a little tiny little square. For some reason, the meeting view button has been disabled. Is there something that she can do from there so that I don't have to look at little teeny tiny people talking?
We'll look into it. Or Rebecca's looking into it now. I could see her. Hands are busy. All right, we're gonna move on to federal legislative update, Michael.
Yeah, so I have a few items that Mia sent me in advance. She apologizes that she couldn't be here today. We were kind of working together last week on the impacts of the federal spending freeze and then the thawing of the federal spending freeze. And we received notification from FEMA this week. They had a court order to notify all grantees that there is no funding freeze. And that, I think, went out across the agency, to any recipient of non-federal recipient of federal agency funds. So we've just been kind of monitoring that situation, but at this point, none of the freeze has been, the court's involved now. So there's no federal funding freeze. The other thing that we're watching closely is, the appropriations bills are still in the House. And so watching closely to see how Congress negotiates the appropriations bills and the administration's role in that. We are hoping, I think the current continuing resolution goes through the middle of March. We're hoping that the budget will be approved by then, that there won't be another continuing resolution. So we think with that shortly after that budget is approved is a good time to revisit, especially considering the changing circumstances, get back in touch with Army Corps headquarters and our elected representatives out there and the Office of Management and Budget to ensure that our project continues to get funding in the Army Corps work plan. So we're working with Mia to set up those meetings for the first week in April, which coincides with the National Hydropower Association Water Power Week events. And so Director Davidson and I are planning to be there for that week to do meetings, a round of meetings with Mia, and then the NHA conference as well, which should be educational. And then I know, so anyways, that's on the appropriation side. And then the Army Corps work plan. We have WRDA, Water Resources Development Act, which is the legislation that gives the Army Corps its funding. That did pass during the lame duck session, and it was signed in January. And our request for an additional 3.1 million and authorization was included in WRDA. So we were very grateful and excited to see that authorization increase. That of course doesn't mean we have the money yet. We have currently 13.28 million appropriated for the Copper Cove wastewater treatment project. And the additional 3.1 will ensure that we can do all that we want to do down there. We still have a very good viable project with the 13.28 in federal funding. The additional 3.1 we think will help us to actually fully complete all of the work that we want to do.
Where are we with the 3.1? Where is it right now?
So it was just authorized. It was just the authorization was just increased. So we now have an authorization in Section 219 program for 16.3 million. And we of that, the 13.2 has been appropriated. The additional 3.1, we still have to go back and try to get that appropriated in next year's federal budget. We're not pushing for that necessarily yet, since WRDA just passed. And we have time on that front as long now that we have the 13.2 essentially in the bank. We're working with the Corps every multiple meetings weekly now, working through the Corps bureaucracy to actually bring that project to, we last month, or just a couple weeks ago, the FONSI was completed. So the finding of no significant impact. So the federal environmental review is done. Now we're close to final design on it and working through the process as quickly as we can. So we hope to have that project out to bid. It's hard to say exactly when at this point still, but working through that process as quickly as we can, so that the Corps can issue the contract for some upgrades to the tertiary filter, and then the dam raise is the main component of that 13.2 million. So we'll increase the height of the dam.
How is the Corps reacting or working with us without that 3.1? Does it make a difference in signing a contract or a contract?
We can't use that money, and we can't even really we can't plan to use it yet.
So I
Until
know,
it's
so there's-
appropriated, it's
There's
not
been
real.
3 chunks of money coming to us and the 4th is still out there and may or may not come. And so
Right.
at some point, our hands are tied to, we need some, well, I know, so we got the 13 million now, so we can move on something, but
Yeah.
how is the 3.1 going to be, if it is ever approved and in the bank? How does it mesh with what we have already and what we're doing with the core?
Yeah, so we had to kind of over the last year, we really went through kind of a re-sequencing effort to make sure that we're funding the highest priority items first, and then anything that we intend to do with that 3.1, it will come in a later phase, but we can't, we have no guarantee that we're going to get it. And so the project, the scope of the project that we're focused on right now can move forward as an independent project with or without that additional 3.1 million. And so
Just
we're
have a different scope.
working on revising. We have to do a new letter report, which is sort of the plan for how you're going to spend the money. We are still working through the process of updating that letter report to account for the whole 13.2, and then also a new project partnership agreement, which we just found out a couple weeks ago. We have to have a new PPA. We didn't anticipate that, but this is part of been part of the long process with the core is the rules of the game change from time to time, and we have to adapt and deal with the changes. So we're no strangers to that. Can be frustrating, but as they say, free money isn't always cheap. So we're dealing with the bureaucracy and working through it as quickly as we can, but that money is secure, and we're looking forward to a good project there.
What
But
else?
and then still moving on the 3.1 to try to secure that as soon as we can too. And then when we get that, we'll have to revise the letter report again. We'll be going through this again.
Okay, so you said it's not an immediate thing. We're not working on it, but what is the time frame that we
Well,
are?
we are working on it.
Okay.
And there is actually a possibility. We've asked the Corps if they can actually include it, because the surest way to get your funding included in the Army Corps' annual work plan is to have it appropriated by Congress. And that's what we've been successful in doing the last 3 years. They do also have some discretion to include funding in the work plan on their own. And so we've asked them to do that with the 3.1.
At what level are we?
I'm not sure what the response to that will be through our project team meetings.
So Sacramento regional.
Yeah, and then at times the boss of those folks. So it's I think worked its way up the chain there, and then Mia is aware of that request as well, and so we'll factor that into our discussions with headquarters as well. They typically don't do that. This is a very competitive program. The funds that are available, there's not a huge pot of money that's available, and it is competitive. So I think it's typically they have to fund what Congress appropriates, but it was worth asking.
Gotcha.
And so I already mentioned the timing is right to knock on those doors again and make the rounds to make sure that the funding is secure in the Army Corps' work plan, and that we have a list of issues that, in terms of how frustrating this process has been, it's these meetings, I can't tell you how valuable it is, both in terms of resolving those issues when we meet with with headquarters staff, but also just the impact that it has on Sacramento and San Francisco offices to know that we are active in that space. It just raises the profile of the project, and it helps us address those issues even, well after we've made those visits. So they're really important to not only securing the funding, but making sure the process is working the way it's supposed to work. So those are the highlights I had from Mia.
Okay,
You're not going to the DC DC conference, I'm guessing?
I am not going to the Aqua DC conference, no.
No, and I just wanted to bring up a couple, we got a great, I think it's a lot going on in DC right now, so that's gonna be on February 25th to 27th. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's at the Willard Intercontinental again. But it opens up with a 119th Congress, talks and what's going on there. And I just kind of go through the next session is effective engagement, Aqua federal priorities. Kind of similar to what we're doing here, but it's Aqua's priorities. And then before lunch, we do an evolving legal landscape implications for water providers. Riveting panel will discuss how decisions on Chevron deference, NEPA implementation, and the Clean Water Act could affect your agency. We have a networking lunch, and then in the afternoon starts off with wildfire impacts on water resources, challenges and solution. I think it's going to be engaging as well. And then that afternoon, the electric grid ensuing resilience, managing unprecedented demand. They don't have speakers included in these slots yet, or who the panel is. And then in that evening, the Aqua Congressional Reception takes place at the Botanical Gardens. And the following day, on Wednesday, there's welcome and federal agency keynotes. Again, it's going to be at the hotel. They don't say who it is. And then that afternoon at the Capitol Visitor Center, there's congressional speech program. And then the following morning, the final morning, after breakfast, there's a combating natural disasters and international perspective. And then it ends before lunch on Thursday morning.
I'm glad you'll be there to represent CCWD. There's a lot, as you said, there's a lot going on, and I think there'll be a lot of information to gain from that.
Yeah, I think more so than usual this year.
Looks like pretty.
This year. Anyway, that's on the federal legislative update. Anything further on that item?
I just thought of something else and now I've lost it already, so no.
Okay, any public comment before we leave that item?
That was Aqua sponsored legislation. Go ahead, Kelly, if you want to talk about, I thought you already covered that.
So go ahead.
It's in your packet, the Fix Our Forest Act, that HR 471. I think we talked about that a few months ago. I think I had maybe with Dane from CSDA come on, but that did pass on January 23rd. Passed the House of Representatives with a strong bipartisan vote of 279 to 141. So this act is a significant step forward in improving forest management and protecting communities from the growing threat of wildfire. We did talk about that quite a bit the other day in the headwaters as well. So all the information's in the packet there.
Good. Was the Aqua Headwaters, you've mentioned it a couple times, that meeting took place this week? Last week?
Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Was it a Zoom meeting or?
Yeah.
Zoom meeting? Okay.
Those are always Zoom now,
How did our-
except for conference.
How did our friend Joel do in his chairing first? This is his first meeting in chairing that group.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was kind of tough timing. It was the week of, I think, or the end of the week of the wildfires. And so that just kind of dominated the discussion. There were a few folks from Southern California agencies that were sharing their discussion, their experiences. And so that was the majority of the discussion there.
I'll bet. You got his hands full on that one, especially this year. All right, anything further? Okay, director comments and future agenda items?
Not that I'm aware of.
Future agenda items, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be, I mean, I expect obviously legislative activity, state level will ramp up here fairly quickly. So we'll just be monitoring these bills, bringing some others back. And, you know, I think it's worth revisiting at some point too, a discussion about how we take positions on bills. We've always been somewhat informal in how we do that. But I think, you know, SB 88, some of the Assemblymember Tangipa legislation, you know, things like that. I think it helps us to take a support position, even if it doesn't necessarily move the needle on the bill's chances. It helps show support, and that can be important from local agencies, and also helps build those relationships with the authors. So I think we'll be bringing that back as well.
Okay, no, and I fully support that. And I'm guessing Director Davidson would as well, as of us as a board, providing a letter of support for legislation that affects us. I mean, that's what we're going to be doing at Mountain County's big time this year. And I'd like to see you're on the state ledge committee. If you're on Mountain Counties and we're attending these meetings, let's pick and choose what we support as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it may not always be just like where Mountain Counties is. It's not always where Aqua is and what Aqua can support on a statewide basis.
Yeah.
But
And that can be sometimes where it's most important is, because sometimes Aqua will just bow out of an issue if it's too controversial among their members. But that's where Mountain Counties can really play a key role in, because their priorities are very much aligned with ours. And that's where, having local agencies show up as supporters can actually really make a difference.
awesome. And our next committee meeting is Tuesday, April 1st, 1 p.m. Got that on your calendar? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for fixing it.